There's a huge misunderstanding in the trauma space right now that trauma can be released in one big cathartic moment. Your nervous system doesn't function this way. Trauma is resolved in smaller moments when your nervous system feels safe enough to let go what it couldn't before. In this video, I'm going to explain exactly what trauma is and how you can resolve it through smaller releases. I'm going to provide you with a simple and practical step-by-step guide for healing trauma. Let's dive in. Most people think that trauma is about how big or extreme an event was. But trauma is not the event. It's how your nervous system responded to the event. Peter Levine, the creator of somatic experiencing, defines trauma in this way. See, one event could leave one person traumatized and another person completely fine. So why is this? It's because trauma is the response of overwhelm in the nervous system to an event, and everyone's nervous system is different. So the same event could leave one person traumatized and another person completely fine. Trauma causes dysregulation to get trapped in your nervous system. So following an overwhelming event, your nervous system gets stuck in states of fight, flight, fawn, freeze, or shutdown. So even though you consciously know the dangerous event is over, your nervous system doesn't get the message. So here is the problem. People hear trauma has caused dysregulation to become trapped in my nervous system. And so as a result, how do I heal? I need to fully release it. And so there's this misconception that happens in the trauma space where people are desperately looking for this giant release, crying intensely, shaking and just letting it all go, doing an epic breathwork session where they just feel that release of energy, or just looking for this big epic moment in therapy where everything will finally let go and leave their body. And while these moments can happen, in my experience working with hundreds of therapy clients, these moments are not what creates lasting change and lasting trauma healing. In fact, if you force yourself to have this intense release and dive headfirst into high dysregulation, it's actually going to backfire and make your nervous system feel more unsafe. See, trauma is released when there's enough safety on board while you attend to memories and dysregulating sensations. But when you're striving for this huge dramatic release, you're going to end up in such intense dysregulation that you're never going to feel safe. And essentially what your nervous system learns is that these memories and these sensations are not safe and I cannot handle them. And that can actually reinforce the trauma response instead of resolve it. See, trauma healing is much quieter and less dramatic than people expect. We need to make small, repetitive shifts towards safety. I call these micro releases. Instead of trying to release everything at once, you slowly and gently approach the trauma memories and sensations at a level you can tolerate. Now, in the remainder of this video, I'm going to provide a step-by-step process for healing trauma. Now, I do want to say that if you're feeling overwhelmed trying to process your trauma on your own, please make sure you're being safe and reach out to a therapist in your area for support, or you can sign up for my digital course where there's further guidance, and I'll put that link down below. So let's dive into this step-by-step process of healing trauma. Step 1, pick a memory or event. So to begin, you need to pick a memory or event that caused a trauma response. You want to start slow and small here. Do not pick the most overwhelming, dysregulating, traumatic event that took place for you. Start small, pick something that feels more manageable to start approaching. Step 2, activate the memory. Start to think about, talk about, or visualize the memory. Now, you don't need to do this for an extended period of time because we want to make sure that dysregulation is not getting too big. So don't go and do this for 30 minutes. You might start off by only activating that memory by thinking about it, talking about it, visualizing it for like 30 seconds to a minute. You might not even make it through the whole memory, and that's totally okay because this isn't a one-time process. This whole step-by-step process, you're going to need to do several times to ultimately resolve your trauma. So don't feel the urge that you need to recount the whole story. Step 3, drop in and describe. At this point, you're going to pause activating the memory. So you're going to pause thinking about, talking about, or visualizing the traumatic event or memory. And now you're going to move out of your mind and drop into your body. You want to drop into your body and nervous system and start to notice unpleasant sensations that have started to take place. Is there a fight, flight, fawn, freeze, or shutdown response happening? And is there any pain and symptoms? You want to start to describe the unpleasantness you feel within. Does your chest feel constricted? Is your heart rate racing? Does your body feel heavy or numb? Do your arms feel all tense? Or maybe you have like buzzy, tingly sensations taking place. But you're starting to describe, how does my nervous system feel now that I've activated that memory? And you want to do this with curiosity and compassion. Step 4, deepen connection. Now at this point, you have a lay of the land. You've dropped in, you've described what sensations are happening, and now we want to really deepen our connection with them and get exposure to the unpleasant sensations. This is how we teach our nervous system that we don't need to fear this dysregulation. So what I tell people is actually move your focus. As long as the sensations aren't too intense, move your focus in towards the dysregulation. When I do this, it's almost like each time I exhale, I'm dropping in further towards the unpleasant sensations. And you want to notice moment to moment how they shift, change, or become different. Notice both pleasant and unpleasant sensations inside. And don't just focus on the intense sensations. That's where our mind's kind of drawn to. But notice all the subtleties taking place in your body. You really want to just deepen your connection to your nervous system, approach those sensations, and allow them to occur. Step 5, stay in the healing window. There are limits to how much unpleasant sensations you can tolerate attending to. So my agencies call this the healing window. So you imagine a window, and when you're doing trauma work or work with difficult emotions or even pain and symptoms, you want to stay in this window. So within the window, it's uncomfortable. You're attending to unpleasant sensations, but they're at a level that you can tolerate being with them in your body. And that's where we want to sit. If you're starting to exit the window, we want to make a shift. And in the next step, I'll explain what do I do if I start to exit the healing window. The next step will help resolve that for you. But you need to watch this as you're dropping in, describing, deepening your connection. Make sure that you can tolerate it. Now, a sign that you're exiting the healing window is that dysregulation is just building and building and building. And it's becoming too intense for you to tolerate. And so you want to watch out for that because, if that occurs, it's getting too much for you to handle. Step 6, shifting between safety and danger signals. Your nervous system naturally shifts between dysregulation and regulation, or unpleasant sensations and pleasant sensations. The problem becomes if you face trauma, chronic pain, chronic symptoms, your nervous system loses its ability to be flexible and shift with ease between regulation and dysregulation. And as a result, people get trapped in these dysregulated states. So you can learn to intentionally shift between regulation, dysregulation, or safety signals and danger signals. Now, I want to give credit. We pulled a lot from somatic experiencing and Peter Levine for this part of the process that we talk about. So I do want to give them credit because this is where this content originates from. Now, with shifting, it depends where you're at. So if you're feeling pretty safe and regulated when you drop in, describe, deepen your connection, like you feel like you have the ability to just track those sensations, explore them, great. You can lean in more to danger signals. You can focus on the unpleasant dysregulation. You might go back and reactivate that memory. You can shift to a danger signal because there's enough safety on board. But if you're exiting that healing window that I talked about, and that danger is just getting too high, that dysregulation is just building and building, you want to then shift to a safety signal. Because by shifting to a safety signal, you're going to move yourself back into the healing window. And again, that's where we want to hang out when we're processing trauma. So safety signals you can shift to. In our approach, we talk about present moment sensing, sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, certain breathwork patterns, somatic movements, tapping or massage, visualization, or safe self-talk. These are all internal safety signals you could start to utilize. So I'll give you an example here. Say you're tracking this fight or flight response that you're feeling inside after you activated that memory, and your chest is getting tighter and tighter. You're starting to exit the healing window. It's feeling like it's too much. And it's like, okay, I'm going to shift away from that. And I'm just going to focus on the sounds or lack of sounds in my space right now. I'm going to bring all my attention to the sounds around me. And you breathe slow. You track that for a bit. You notice your nervous system starts to regulate a bit more. And then once you have enough safety on board, you could shift back to that fight or flight feeling in your chest, that constriction, and start to deepen your connection with that. And so when you're shifting between danger signals and safety signals, you might just do that once during a practice, but many of my clients actually like to go back and forth at whatever rhythm or rate they would like, just going back and forth between safety and danger. Because you're teaching your nervous system to be flexible. You're teaching your nervous system it has an ability to shift, and you don't need to worry so much if the dysregulation builds because you have a safe place to shift to. As you practice this process consistently, you're going to experience micro releases where your nervous system starts to learn that the trauma memories and sensations are actually safe and you can tolerate being with them. And as that happens, your nervous system becomes more resilient. It starts to be more flexible. It can shift in and out of safety or danger. And the trauma memories or potential trauma triggers start to have less of an emotional punch. So this is the process that leads to healing trauma. Now, if you have questions or comments, please put them down below, and I'll talk to you all soon. Take care.